Edition claims of cheating and corruption at a South Bay school district lead to raids by the district attorney's office. What's next?
Also tonight, worries about a new drug from a San Diego company. It's a more powerful version of a highly addictive painkiller.
And the Pentagon is planning a new crackdown on an illegal drug that's already cost dozens of San Diego sailors their jobs.
KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Joanne and Dwayne have the night off. I'm Amita Sharma.
And I'm Peggy Pico. We begin with news of a Pentagon crackdown on a drug that's already ended the Navy careers of dozens of San Diego sailors.
The drug is called Spice. It's a synthetic drug that imitates the effects of marijuana. Nearly 100 sailors on the aircraft carriers Carl Vinson and Ronald Reagan were discharged for having the drug. The Navy says it has a zero-tolerance policy, but its current drug tests don't detect Spice. The Defense Department is now working on better testing procedures.
A San Diego company plans to become the first to sell a new powerful painkiller, but drug abuse experts are critical of the new pill because it contains a more potent version of the highly addictive drug hydrocodone. The new pills are called Zohydro. They have 10 times the amount of pure hydrocodone as other pain medications like Vicodin. The manufacturer of the new drug says their hydrocodone pill may cause less liver problems than other narcotics. Hydrocodone is the second most abused medication in the U.S., and addiction experts warn the new narcotic pills could spur a new wave of abuse. The company Zogenix of San Diego hopes to market the new drug in 2013, but Zohydro is not yet FDA approved.
Dozens of protesters rallied in Ocean Beach today against the federal crackdown on medical marijuana dispensaries. Many of San Diego's dispensaries have shut down since California's 4 U.S. attorneys sent warning letters to dispensary owners and landlords. Medical marijuana advocates say the government is waging war on its own citizens.
So at a time where over 50% of the population believes that we should be legalizing marijuana, here we are, the federal government is coming in and wanting to do away with our state law and close our medical cannabis facilities. So it's kind of insanity.
Democratic Congressman Bob Filner, who is running for San Diego mayor, also attended the rally.
Those who need marijuana for medical use, they're in chronic pain, they need help. If they have a prescription from the doctor, they ought to be able to get it. Because California has legalized it, the city council should be making efforts to make sure it happens.
Federal officials have said the crackdown is a result of dispensaries being used as fronts for criminal organizations to sell marijuana. Pot is still illegal under federal law.
The surf's up at San Diego County beaches. That is way up. Warm temperatures and swells of up to 5 feet brought out the surfers today. The waves also created some strong rip currents, so lifeguards kept a close watch for swimmers in trouble.
It was great. It's been a Christmas present with waves and beautiful weather here for the last 4 or 5 days. It's really been special.
I got out pretty early this morning, 6 o'clock over at Sunset Cliffs, and then came out again today. I mean, the sun keeps raining down on us beautifully, so why not keep going?
It's a beautiful sunny day. It's a great beach day. Midwinter San Diego, you really can't beat weather like this the day after Christmas. So the sun's out. The surf conditions are real nice, not particularly big, but some nice clean surf conditions. And a lot of people on vacation right now, so people are taking advantage of it.
Oh, in Italy they are freezing. My family is freezing now. It's hot here. Looks like spring. These waves are much more powerful than Italian waves.
They sounded pretty happy to be out there. Now, the high surf is expected to continue for the next few days. Some current and former education officials in the South Bay are facing a rising tide of controversy. Amita has more with her guest at the Evening Roundtable edition.
The mission at the Sweetwater Union High School District, as listed on its website, is to maintain a culture of integrity, respect, and trust. But over the last year, the district has been racked with allegations of cheating, forgery, and lies. Ashley McGlone of the San Diego Union Tribune has been covering the story. She joins me to tell us what she knows. Ashley, the DA's office raided the homes of 6 current and former Sweetwater Union High School District board members, the homes of Southwestern College administrators, former administrators, I believe, and a construction contractor. I understand that these documents related to the investigation are sealed, but so far, what do we know about why these people's homes were raided?
So formally, we don't know much. Like I said, the search warrants will be unsealed. We anticipate this week, and we're hoping that'll lay out a better case on what exactly these individuals were targeted for. Were they the subject of? Are they the subject of a criminal probe? Are they witnesses? The suspicion, because the contractor is involved, and both the Southwestern and Sweetwater communities have had huge bond measures passed in recent years, and delays and concerns have been raised by members of the community that the construction work and the way in which contracts were awarded in both districts could be the subject of the probe.
So there have been long-standing allegations of political corruption, both at Southwestern College and at Sweetwater. Walk us through some of the strongest allegations.
So former Superintendent Jesus Gondra, who was notably left off of the list for the DA's search warrants last week, and that's also where everyone in the community is wondering why, he was known to very much encourage relationships between the contractors and board members, both outside of the professional arena. He himself had invited numerous contractors to his daughter's bridal shower event, which had a money tree, and the concern, of course, is that there's an implication of, you donate to me here or to my daughter, and you will continue to receive work in the district, or maybe a potential contractor, you will be awarded work in the district. Many of the campaign contributions to some of the longtime incumbents were received into the tens of thousands of dollars from contractors. While perfectly legal, as long as they disclose that, it does raise the concern that it's a pay-to-play situation. Southwestern College has been very upfront about wanting to change that perception and that practice. They've increased oversight on how the contracts are being awarded. Sweetwater hasn't quite gone that far yet, so that remains to be seen if they'll make some bigger actions.
Now, there was also a lawsuit by one, I think it was a builder, who said that he was sort of shut out or not treated very well because he refused to contribute to a board member's campaign. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Har Construction was working on projects at Southwestern Middle and Southwestern High School before they were terminated. They're claiming that they were wrongfully terminated, and that when they failed to donate to, I know Pro Quinones is named in the lawsuit as well as the district itself, that there was sort of retribution, and that's why they were terminated. They're also filing for breach of contract. So the allegations are certainly out there. Whether or not it's valid remains to be seen, but it's certainly the hope of many in the community that the DA will be able to prosecute some individuals who may have done some criminal activity.
How big of a role did parents and teachers play in bringing about this investigation by the DA's office?
So we're not quite sure. However, I know just in my coverage over the last year, pressure has definitely mounted, and that's part of why Jesus Gondra was ousted. Though he wasn't formally fired and he didn't really resign, there was a separation agreement after mounting public pressure. Members of the community and the public had been coming to the board vocally expressing outrage at some of the concerns that they had and some of the things that they were seeing, and it was mostly falling on deaf ears is what they felt. So then they took those concerns to the DA's office, and know that they're highly encouraged to see these search warrants executed, but whether or not that'll, what will come of it in the coming months still remains to be seen, and there's still a lot of unknown and a lot of questions.
Now, there are layers of alleged wrongdoing here. You've got the pay-to-play allegations. You also have grade changing and forgery, possibly, by some principals. How did the district get to such a low point?
That is something that I can't speak to clearly. I know there's a number of board members who've been there for a long time, and as was the case also at Southwestern. And some would say that there was definitely a culture that was developed. When I began reporting on some of these things, I was told, this happens everywhere. This isn't a problem. This is normal for the South Bay. But what I've come to see is just because it's normal in the South Bay doesn't mean it's normal everywhere else, or that it's even legal potentially. So. What exactly created that culture, I'm not sure. I think, the relationship, the building of relationships between contractors and board members and other executives in administration in both districts definitely raises concern, and maybe will be vetted out a little bit further by the DA.
And how soon might we expect to find out what is contained in the sealed documents?
We're hoping tomorrow. I mean, it could be as soon as tomorrow. It could be later this week. It could be next week. But I'll be down at the courthouse tomorrow morning, bright and early, to see if they have been unsealed and what information is in there.
Ashley McGlone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
There will be no playoff game for the San Diego Chargers this year, and this Sunday's game with the Oakland Raiders is expected to be the final game of the Norv Turner era. Team owner Dean Spano says he won't make any announcements until next week, but many sports writers predict Turner will lose his job, possibly along with general manager A.J. Smith. The New York Post says the Chargers have already talked with a potential replacement for Turner, that is, former Pittsburgh coach Bill Cowher. San Diego's Christmas tree recycling program is underway. Anyone who has a green waste collection bin can just put the tree in their bin for curbside pickup. But if there's no room in the bin, there are 16 locations around the city where you can drop off your tree. Of course, you must remove all of the decorations, but the city is also accepting flock trees. The city program runs until January 23rd. The recycled Christmas trees will get a second life as compost, wood chips, or mulch. And some old Christmas trees in Riverside will be recycled into fish habitats. The California Department of Fish and Game will put the used trees into local lakes and waterways to create protective habitats for small fish so they won't get eaten by bigger fish. Plus, they say it'll keep the trees out of the landfill. 2011 seemed to be a big year for going green in San Diego. Electric cars were one of the big trends in business this past year. We'll have a look back at that and other top stories from our BizTech desk in just a moment. Plus, one San Diego library of sorts wants your brain. Just your brain, nothing else. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS at 8, a 1797 Chippendale marriage chest and a collection of original Peanuts artwork highlight Antiques Roadshow stop in Phoenix. Then at 9, Antiques Roadshows in San Jose for a visit to the Winchester Mystery House and to appraise a bowl and ladle worth up to $300,000. And at 10, there's more to life than a bowl of cold cereal, as you'll see as breakfast is celebrated across America. That's tonight on KPBS. Tuesday at 10 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Gas prices hit a new Christmas Day record in San Diego County with an average of $3.56 a gallon. Prices had been dropping for more than a month, but they started going up again about a week ago, just in time for the holiday travel. Plenty of shoppers headed to San Diego County malls today. Many were trying to get a deal or return gifts that weren't quite the perfect fit. The day after Christmas is considered to be the third busiest shopping day of the year, but some shoppers didn't wait for the stores to open today. IBM says Christmas Day online shopping jumped more than 16%. Amitha has more on San Diego business trends in 2011 with her guest on the Evening Edition Roundtable.
We continue our look back at 2011 on Evening Edition with the big stories affecting San Diego's economy, from the fallout from the long recession to rising gas prices. Here to give us a rundown of the big business stories is KPBS News business reporter Eric Anderson. Eric Anderson, let's start with unemployment. It's at 9.2%. What does that figure mean?
Well, the figure itself means that we're basically in a place where we haven't been very long. We've been there up over 10%, in fact, for the last year and a half or so. But before then, we trended to be around 3.5% to 5.5% when times were bad. So it's uncomfortable territory, but the unemployment rate is going down. We actually gained about 27,000 jobs over the course of the last year. But to put it in perspective, when the recession hit, we lost 100,000 jobs, 120,000 jobs, and we've only gotten about half of those jobs back. Economists who look ahead, National Institute for Policy Research, National University System Institute for Policy Research, says that in the coming year, we're going to see more job growth, but it's not going to be at the rate that we need it to be to recover the economic, all the economic losses that we had over the past couple of years.
So wait, what rate do we really need it to be to grow out of the long recession?
We need it to be at about 3% when the economy is healthy. But of course, our economy is not healthy, so it needs to be maybe about 4% or so. And we're going to see growth in the 1% to 2% range in the coming year.
Where did the job market suffer in 2011?
Well, actually, in 2011, the job market started to recover a little bit, but there continue to be problem spots. Construction is one of those problem spots. The housing market crashed. Most of those construction jobs went away, and they haven't come back. In the coming year, we're going to expect to see some problems in government. Governments are going to be laying people off because of the state continues to have financial problems, and those are transferred to local governments as well. And there's a chance that a significant portion of the military funding that comes into the region from the federal government is also going to go away, and that's going to create some job stress here in this economy.
Another big story of 2011 was the grocery strike that didn't quite happen. Why didn't it happen?
Well, it didn't happen because they managed to work out a deal, but I think that one of the reasons why it didn't, their contract expired in March of this year. They went all the way until October before they had a settlement and did not go out on strike. And I think the large reason for that was the economy was simply not that good, and they wanted to work toward a deal. Healthcare benefits, the sticking point again. Union thought that the company wasn't funding it properly. The company wanted to kind of bring all the workers under the same healthcare benefit package. I think they both got what they wanted in the end, but not before a lot of nervous people were thinking about the possibility of 2003 reliving itself again this year.
Gas prices, that's something that all of us watch. It's something you watch even closer. Where were they in the past year? Up, down, steady?
Gas prices were remarkably stable over the course of this year. They started high and they stayed high. In fact, 2011 is setting a record in a couple of areas. We've never had a yearly average price for crude prices as high as they were in 2011. And gas prices in San Diego, California, and the nation have never been at this high of an average price. In fact, they're like 30% higher than the last highest average price. So record-setting year for gas prices. It's been very expensive, and that happened at the same time that demand actually came down because of the high prices. And one of the spill-offs during the course of the year was that refineries were dealing with demand destruction but wanted to keep their prices high, began to export fuels that were refined here in California to South American countries.
Very quickly, one way to avoid high gas prices is to buy an all-electric car. How did San Diego County fare over the last year in embracing this technology?
First wide-scale consumer-accepted electric car rollout in San Diego County. The Nissan Leaf made San Diego one of the test areas. We have about 1,100 all-electric vehicles in the county now. That's up from 200 in the middle of the summer. And that trend is going to continue to go up as more manufacturers bring electric cars out of the market. The big challenge for the utility is to make sure that the power is available when they need it. They're trying to get those EV owners to charge overnight when demand is down.
Eric Anderson, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
This week, we'll be revisiting some of our favorite stories of 2011. Tonight, we begin with one of our most popular stories of the year, a story about brains. More specifically, we're talking about a brain observatory. It's located at the UCSD Medical School. The school is hoping to convince 1,000 more San Diegans to donate their brains to research. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says the goal of the project is to digitize the brains and share the images with researchers all over the world.
Some people collect stamps, old coins, or works of art. Jacopo Anese collects brains.
So here we have a refrigerator, and it contains the brains of our participants. And it's now these are individuals who have willed, when they were in life, they willed their brains to research.
Jacopo Anese is the director of UCSD's Brain Observatory. We're inside his laboratory, where people's brains are transformed into bits of information.
And I wanted to be able to process the brain in one piece. We collect the brain and we store it here. And then the brain undergoes a very long processing that results in the final images. Because what we do here is actually we virtualize the actual human brain, and it becomes a collection of images at different levels of resolution and images created with different modalities.
The first step in the process is to obtain a brain right after a person dies. It's placed in a chemical solution and put in the cooler for about 8 weeks.
And this is where we actually physically slice the brains.
Then it has to be sliced up by a machine called a microtome.
The brain sits here on the stage, and everything is kept frozen by these industrial chillers. We generally cut at an interval of 70 microns, which is 70 thousandths of a millimeter. So it's hair thin. So you have typically between 2,500 and 3,000 slices for one brain. So this is one of the slices from the brain.
The slices are placed on a glass slide, stained and digitally photographed. The images are so data-rich, it would take 148,000 DVDs to store all of them for just one brain.
See, this is a blood vessel here.
What researchers can do with the information is truly amazing.
Thanks to the digitization, we can actually explore this particular section of the brain down to the level of the single cell. So just like Google Earth, when from the main image of a region you can zoom in and look at a single house, we're able to look at individual brain cells.
By having the entire brain digitized at this resolution, researchers may be able to detect subtle differences in how the brain is affected by different diseases. That appeals to Clinton Spangler. He's 83 years old, and he's planning to donate his brain to the observatory. Spangler suffers from a nerve disorder called essential tremor. He hopes scientists can find something in his brain that could help other people who share his affliction.
I think it's much better if it's put to some use for humanity rather than just being put in the ground.
Patrice Locke's mother, Peggy, passed away last October. Peggy's brain is now being digitized. Locke says her mom had some special qualities.
That you always have with you. Her soul, if you will, is now departed. Her physical self is a completely separate entity, and the fact that that can be used for some good, I think is wonderful.
The observatory doesn't just digitize people's brains. Staff also work with family members to store the life history of the donors. Jacopo Anese says that information might become useful someday.
And now, who will be looking at your brain in 20 years? And could be a doctor, could be a neurologist, could be a student, could be an artist who wants to learn how to draw brain cells, or could be the next Michael Crichton who wants to write a thriller about the brain.
However it's used, Renee Farley is glad her older sister Diane's brain is at the observatory. She died after suffering from early onset Alzheimer's disease. Farley says, in a sense, Diane is still around.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's what made it, such a thrill for us, is that she does live on. Her story's being told, and hopefully people will learn from her, and she's still here watching us.
That was KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg. You can find out more about donating to UCSD's Brain Library by going to our website, kpbs.org. Now, there's some surprising new research out about adolescent obesity. That story in just a moment. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Ray Suarez. On the next News Hour, 4 Iraq War veterans reflect on their service and how the conflict changed them and the nation. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
The American people have named PBS the most trusted source of news and public affairs.
For the 8th year in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
Where can you learn the history and uncover the treasures of our region? Right here on KPBS. First, on Ken Kramer's About San Diego, discover the little-known stories behind the things and places in San Diego we see every day. Then on Crossing South, host Jorge Meraz explores Baja, Mexico, and gets to know the places frequented by the locals. Get to know the people, the food, and the customs of our neighbor to the south, only on Crossing South, starting January 5th on KPBS.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. As it turns out, it may not be mom's cooking that is making teens gain weight. Instead, it's the relationship she has with her kids. Ohio State University researchers say the weaker the emotional bond between a mother and child, the higher the risk that child will be overweight by the age of 15. In fact, the study suggests that in addition to diet and exercise, efforts to improve the emotional bonds between mothers and their children should also be emphasized. What do you think of this study? How big of a role do you think mother-child relationships play in obesity? What can society do to support these bonds? You can weigh in on the conversation by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and of course, you can email us. And now, Peggy has a recap of tonight's top stories.
The Defense Department is researching the testing procedure for spice, a synthetic form of marijuana. The Navy's current standard drug test does not detect the drug. Nearly 100 San Diego-based sailors have been discharged for using or possessing spice. Plus, a San Diego pharmaceutical company is working on a powerful new version of the painkiller hydrocodone. The drug is called Zohydro, and the maker says it may cause fewer liver problems. But addiction experts are worried it might spark a new wave of prescription drug abuse. And surfers are flocking to San Diego beaches to catch a wave. Tides are running higher than usual this week. Lifeguards warn that the 4 to 6 foot swells can create dangerous rip currents. You can watch and comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening. We leave you with a look at the forecast.